Hi, my name is Jared Mello, and this is an episode of Everything Eccentric. And as you can see next to me, I have my guest, a candidate for county commissioner, Ryan Troiano. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So, before we get into today's show, I just have one quick announcement. I wanted to mention that my audiobook will finally be released very shortly, probably next week or the week after. It's called Radical Self-Respect, Avoid Falling for the Same BS. The ebook is already on Amazon now, but I know a lot of people don't like to read, and it's so much more convenient to listen whether you're in the car or working out or cleaning or whatever it is. So that audiobook will be out soon. But without further ado, I want to get right into chatting with my guest, Ryan, here. So how are things with you today, Ryan?
I'm going well, thank you. It's a beautiful day, end of the summer.
Absolutely. And to clarify, we're in Wildwood here, right?
Yes.
And Ryan's going to be a candidate for county commissioner. I think I saw one of 5 candidates, right, for 2 seats?
Yes. There's 2 running on the Republican ticket, 2 running on the Democratic ticket, and then I'm running as an independent.
Now, I like that. What makes you decide to run as an independent?
I think at the end of the day, running as an independent, it gives me so much more ability to be myself, to focus on the people and not what I'm told to vote for, or told to push for, or having be forced to give this person a job or a position or something. And I think it allows me to serve the people over the party. And that's my main thing. My approach is people over politics. And that's what I want to stand for. And that's, I think what our cities, our counties, our states, our country needs to focus more on is people over politics.
Absolutely. I 1000% agree with that. And before I dive into that further, though, why don't you talk a little bit about how you got here to where you are now, a little bit about your background, etc.
Okay, so I'll just get into the political end of it a little bit.
Okay.
As you know, my father has been a long-time mayor in the city of Wildwood. He had some really good times and some bad times, and I was working in the fire department. I had just been hired. My 1 year had just gone up. I was in for a little over a year. I had a newborn son, and he had issues with his ears. He constantly kept getting ear infections, and he had to get surgery on his ears. He had to get the tubes put in. It was so hard to get an appointment. We finally get an appointment through CHOP, and through political retaliation, I get terminated from my job in the fire department. So now, I'll land on my feet, I'm okay, but at that point now I'm focused. I have my son who's having ear infections nonstop. Now I lose my insurance, and we have to cancel the appointment, so now my son can't get his operation. So instead of going, a little wild and getting hot-headed and doing stuff, my father was up for election at that point. So I went to him. I said, "Dad, let me run your campaign." "Nah, I don't know if you're not ready for it." I said, "Let me run your campaign. I promise I'll do a good job." "Well, we're gonna have so and so run it, and So I just said, "You know what? I'm just gonna put all my effort towards that. I'm gonna make a difference." And I got involved, and I ended up taking the lead and running the campaign. And at the time, my father had been recalled. He got back in, and he got in with two candidates that have never been in political office before. So, at that point, I think a lot of people didn't think it was going to happen, including members of the Republican Party here, and it kind of I got their attention, and they wanted to start talking and getting involved and all. So from that point, I became the head of the Wildwood Regular Republican Organization in Wildwood. And I got involved in the local Republican Party and the Cape May County Republican Party, and from there I just started getting on, and I followed stuff that my father was doing. I followed meetings that he was with, people that he met with, different groups and organizations, and from there I've just stayed involved. I know somebody's going to dictate how you live your life, unfortunately, in the way we are. So I figured unless you're involved, you can't complain about it. Or you can just not complain and just let somebody determine how you're going to, how you're going to afford things, if
Right.
you're going to be able to afford things and stuff like that. So that's what got me involved and has now kept me involved and makes me want to dig even deeper.
I see. So the political retaliation, that was a Democrat, I guess, while you were a Republican, and they found a way to get rid of your health insurance, something like that?
It was Wildwood here is nonpartisan, but that was, they were the dynamics of it. But when he terminated me from my job because I can be outspoken at times, and if I believe in something, if I'm strong for it, I push for that. And he didn't like it, and some of the things that I would call him out on, he didn't like. And when he had the opportunity, he terminated me. But it was found to be a wrongful termination. It was, I ended up getting my job back. But at that time, my son lost out on getting his surgery that we waited, 3.5, 4 months for. And that was a tough time. So
Sounds like it. But I think the idea you have now, to me, that's what's really important. The people over politics thing, because whether someone's Democrat or Republican right now, I feel like that's a huge division in the country right now, is what are you? What team are you on? As opposed to, let's just try to do the right thing.
Yep.
And so, as county commissioner, what kind of right things would you want to do as an independent?
Well, I think I don't want to come off as negative or being, accusing of anyone, but the same people are cycled through the same jobs. The same groups are in the same, any type of, if a committee's formed, it's the same people. If there's a steering committee, it's the same group. If there's a position available, it's the same people getting those. And that, one, there's no diversity in it. Two, people become comfortable and maybe don't work as hard as they should because they know, like, hey, something earned is way better than something given. And when somebody feels like they've earned something, then, they're going to work harder and they're going to appreciate that. But when they're given it, it's like they show up and just do a job. And I think that leaves a lot of room for improvement in, the county government, which ends up going out through the schools, through the transportation, through, the tourism and all of that. And I think, there's just room for improvement.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, I do think a lot of people do just get too comfortable. They didn't have to earn their position, so they don't appreciate it as much. And I think the people are the ones who get lost in that shuffle. And because they have nothing to do with the politics side. I remember I'd asked your dad once, what's the most common thing that the common person doesn't know? And he goes, they don't see under the hood of the car. They don't see what's actually going on, what we have to deal with. But at the end of the day, the common person doesn't care as much about what's under the hood. They just want to see results.
Yep.
And ultimately, I think that is all the politicians really care about, is what are the results that I'm getting for my constituency. That is it. And so you mentioned tourism here, too. How has Wildwood been doing this summer with all this COVID stuff?
Well, that's another thing that pushed me to dive into this. We should have been fighting harder as a county. Sadly, the after effects of COVID are going to be, in my opinion, 10 times worse than what the actual effects of COVID are now. People losing their businesses that their grandparents created here, shutting down, doors closing, empty buildings, people going bankrupt that have always been financially stable. That's going to affect their mental health. That's going to affect their family life. That's going to affect, other businesses where they may have spent their money before. Right. And, so I think that we should have been fighting extremely hard as a county. Not writing letters to the paper, not saying, oh, I did my part, I wrote a letter and I send the same letter to the governor that I sent to, the newspaper. No, I think they should have been out on the streets. They should have been going to the businesses, going to the state, just constantly hounding until you get an answer that is beneficial to the people. Not just an answer that you're going to say, okay, well, we got our answer. No, you're here to fight for the people. You're not just here, the problem is, we're representing the people. Okay, well, you are representing them, but you have to fight for them. You have to be their voice, not just, oh, well, we represented them, said, hey, we're not happy that, that you shut down dining for all this time or that. And you, when you start putting it together, it's tough that, these people had to go through what they did this summer. And I don't know how this winter in Wildwood is going to be unique, and the start of next summer is going to be unique. I really do feel for a lot of people, and there's a lot of good people that are going to end up hurting this.
So what precisely were the restrictions here? Was that you can only do outdoor dining if you're a restaurant? You can't have any indoor activities at all? Or do you know?
Indoor dining was shut down.
Okay. And
you could do outdoor, but some people were set up to where they benefited from outdoor dining, and others, some would have 70, 75, 80 tables inside, and they could put 10 outside.
Right.
That's a struggle. And now it's like, okay, September 4th, something miraculously must have happened that now 25% of the people can go in. And realistically, that's not even worth opening for a lot of people because It's not going to benefit them. And at this point, the summer's over. It's almost like a slap in the face. Like, we're going to allow you to open up now, the 25%.
Would you rather have been able to see them just stay open completely, or what would you have liked to have seen done?
Yeah, I think you let them stay open. Down here, our issues were in the nursing home. I mean, we were very fortunate that we didn't see as many cases, but the cases we did see were nursing home cases mainly. And, I think you give them the opportunity. You let people open. If you want to guide them, through, then that's fine. If you want to follow up, make sure they're using the proper cleaning procedures and spacing and this and that, you do that. But you give them the opportunity. Because, like I said, you can't treat everything as, well, North Jersey. Yeah, North Jersey was the epicenter, North Jersey and New York City. But if you take away those two areas, it's minimal. And like I said, the people down here, the mental effect, the physical effects, the marital effects, the substance abuse effects are going to be, in my opinion, a lot worse than what we actually dealt with here.
I mean, I see what they're trying to do, but what you're talking about is liberty, right? You want the citizens to be able to have the opportunity to make their own choices. Mm-hmm. And if someone feels like they're at risk, then stay home. If someone feels like they don't want to put themselves in that situation to even get it, then it's their responsibility to stay home. It's their responsibility to socially distance themselves. But for people who are younger, it's like, let them go out. Let them go out, and if they're going to be inside, make them wear a mask. Okay, I'm fine with that. And I think that's the concession that one of the sides needs to make. Okay, inside, wear a mask. I think that would be a fair concession. But if you're allowed to stay open, that's great. But I know in New Jersey what they've done is they've taken everything away, right? Mm-hmm. They haven't helped small business. They were going to take away the $600 extra unemployment insurance. And then they weren't going to let people open full capacity either. So it's, to me, you got to do one or the other. Do you take care of them on the one end? And I know they'll say to me, well, unemployment's a federal thing, so what can the state do? But it's like, if you're Governor Murphy, you're the leader of the state.
Yep.
And a good leader will take more than his fair share of the blame and a less than his fair share of the credit, right? So Absolutely. You got to handle things.
That's a great statement.
Handle it, right? So no one cares what the partisan politics are. No one cares where unemployment comes from. They want you to handle it. And if anything, Trump would be like, hey, he'll understand the let's make a deal thing. I think. If he's going to understand anything,
yes,
that's what he would understand. And so if I'm Murphy, I say to myself, let's make a deal. New Jersey pays some of the highest taxes in all of America, and we get the least back for it in return. So I want to make sure I take care of my people and make sure they're able to pay their bills, make sure they're able to put food on the table, and make sure that their small businesses that they worked for their whole lives and generations in some cases can stay open. Yep. And to me, that's what he has to do. But you can't say, oh, New Jersey can't afford it. New Jersey can't afford the 25% they're supposed to put towards the unemployment and then not help small businesses. Do you know of any small businesses that have gotten helped here?
I haven't really been out through the business community that, to go name who has been helped and who has been hurt. But I've talked to many restaurant owners. I've talked to store owners. And believe it or not, some of them have been very successful this year.
Okay. Good.
But the ones that, that aren't able to, that don't focus mainly, that don't do takeout, that don't have, liquor stores have been phenomenal, but that's a pro and a con. And,
yes.
But some of the businesses don't have the opportunity to, to be successful. And to kind of touch back on one of the issues you were discussing, I think what has happened with all this, people have really lost faith in politicians. If Governor Murphy came out and said, well, we're shutting it down because of this, this, and this, he hasn't provided data. If you're that strong about it, provide your data. Give the people the belief of why you're making your decisions. Be open and fair about it.
Right.
And, when your social media for the state of New Jersey continues to say, wear your mask, cover your nose, don't be selfish. And then you have the governor out not wearing a mask, the governor out with his mask below his nose. People, they're insulted by that. You have Governor Cuomo. Stop being selfish. Wear your mask. He's out walking his dog without a mask. Nancy Pelosi, you shouldn't be without a mask. You can't do this, you can't do that. And you see her out getting her hair done, no mask or anything. It's insulting. It's a slap in the face to the people that are, being told what to do, that really may not believe in it, and they're still going along with it. And it is hard, because there are people who are compromised, health-wise. Their health is compromised, and I do feel bad for them, because what's being done for them? It's like, well, everybody just shut down. But I think what you said, if you're comfortable with going out, go out. If you're not comfortable with with that, don't go out. But then provide a service for people that are at risk. Make sure that people that maybe they're dealing with cancer, or they're dealing with they have respiratory issues or something. Give support to them. Provide. Don't make it to where they have to pay more now to get delivery of services, or to get, because a lot of people were capitalizing on it, and they had had to, so they change fees, they raise it. But you have to provide for everybody. You have to look at the different views. I think you and I share the same view. If you're comfortable, go out. Liberty. You got your freedom. You don't want to be told what you can do and what you can't do, because that starts here, and then where does it stop? It's a very fine line. But there are people that don't have that option, that are compromised with their health. And I think, that should be addressed as well. Right. And I feel like it hasn't.
Well, I believe in the freedom and the liberty, but also using common sense at the same time. So, like I say, if you're going to be inside, I'd say, yeah, wear a mask. That's the trade-off to make, is that you're allowed to go out, you're allowed to do things, but don't be stupid about it.
Yep.
Because if you're stupid about it, then things can get 1,000 times worse than they were before. And I think our leaders have really let us down in this pandemic, and not just Trump, but even when, like, a Fauci, for example, he lies to the people about needing masks. He says, we don't need masks. And then we learn later it's because he only said that because he wanted to make sure hospitals would have enough and they wouldn't run out. So when a leader tells a lie like that, the number one doctor of COVID in this country tells a lie, you lose the trust of the people. Mm-hmm. And how can anyone believe anything he says after that? Once you've been caught in a lie, it's like everything's done. And so I feel like, say you don't know over a lie any day of the week. And then to piggyback also on what you're saying about the partisan part, it's people have been doing what's right for their team over what's right for the people. Yep. And that's why I think it's so important to have more people like yourself run as independents. I think the people are ready for that. They're ready for someone to be not just a standard Republican or a standard Democrat. They're ready for someone to do their own thing, come up with their own ideas, think for themselves. Don't just agree completely with one side or the other. I think people are ready for that.
Yeah, I do think this is a good time to get involved, and that's part of my decision making. People, like you said, people are tired of politicians. And with Fauci, it's like politicians aren't held accountable for lying, aren't held accountable for some of the decisions they make. And along with that, the media has done a terrible job of, well, it depends on how you look at it. They've done a great job of dividing, but they've done a terrible job of doing fair and honest reporting. I mean, when Fauci came out and said all this stuff, he was like the end all be all. He was the god of medicine. And then Fauci comes out and says there's absolutely no reason you can't go to the polls and vote, and that's completely silenced. There's nothing spoken about that, and it's like, people. I think one of the issues too, and you'll see as we go forward, I think there may be some feel of a threat with me getting involved, because I'm not afraid to share what's going on in politics. Some of the stuff that politics is all backdoor dealings. And you have to wheel and deal. You have to be a dealer. I mean, I think Trump's the ultimate dealer. You have to be that, but not at the expense of the people. You have to wheel and deal. It's a give and take, but you can't do that on the backs of the hard-working taxpayers of Cape May County. And I think that's one of the things that have been going on. It's what we discussed. It's people over politics. You're taking care of your political party. I'll give him a job. He helped me, or he brings in votes or something. Well, yeah, there's a $75,000 job with benefits and this and that these hardworking people are now going to pay for.
Right.
So I think that's something that needs to really be looked at.
I mean, when they play that politics game, people get into positions that don't earn them.
Exactly.
And I think that's a huge part of the problem. And you mentioned something about mental health and things and what's best for people. I don't think the news is concentrating enough on saying, hey, get out, make sure you go and stay healthy. Mm-hmm. Make sure you go to the gym. Make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure your immune system is as strong as it can be. I don't hear anything about any of those things. And it's because the media is supposed to be like the watchdog of the government. But the problem is we have two different sectors of the watchdog now. You have Fox News,
yep,
and you have MSNBC and CNN. And they're both basically propaganda for their own side. And that's all that really does. It does the people a disservice, right? The people really are dying for an independent news source. Just a news source that says the facts, yep, without any spin. I think that would be something that, if that were to actually come about, that would be an amazing thing. I think people are dying for that, but they're not getting it.
I agree, absolutely. I like the whole approach of, here's the facts, you make your decision. Not, here, we're going to tell you what you need to right, know. And I think it's gotten to the point in this country where there's so much divide that people just dig their heels in the sand and they're like, we're not budging. And, I think partially in the back of their head, they may say, maybe this isn't the right approach, but I'm not going to break. I'm not going to. And it's not beneficial to anybody.
Right.
It's not going to, it's not going to make things better. It's just a bad time right now. And I don't know. I mean, hopefully that's part of my approach too. Let's change the way politics work. Let's get more good people involved. I know as we were speaking, I think we share some of the same views, and I think there's a lot of other people out there that share the same views. And they don't get into politics because they don't want to be, when the word that goes with politics is dirty. And people don't want to get dirty, but I'm hoping that if I can get involved and show that, look, it's possible to do it without being dirty, more people will want to be involved. More people would be willing to, you look at all these elections, a majority of them get 34, 35, maybe 40% turnout. People just don't care. They've lost faith in our elected officials.
They have.
And it's sad because they are governing our lives. And more so for me, the lives of my children. I mean, everything I do, I'm motivated by my children. I want them to have the best world that they can live in. And that's why, you have to be involved. And if you're not, how can you say anything?
Right. So I think it's encouraging that in Minnesota, for example, someone like Jesse Ventura was able to become governor. And that was such a big deal that the CIA actually interviewed him to find out how the hell he did it. How the hell did you win as an independent, right? And he won. And so I think that's an encouraging sign, but that's something the Republicans and Democrats both, they are completely scared of that. But there is no mention of Republicans or Democrats in the Constitution. That's not there.
Exactly.
They want to trick us into thinking that they are our only choices, but they're not. And have you ever had any thoughts or ambitions to, start a different kind of party or a new party?
Well, I mean, when you start talking like that, people say, "Oh, they're radical, they're crazy," but I don't think it's a new direction. It's given those. If you have, like I said, 35, 40, at best, you have 50% turnout, at very best. But realistically, let's say 40. That means there's 60% of the people out there that don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the majority. So you have to. I think there is an avenue to gain people. To go more on common sense. You're not a robot. I'm not a computer. I'm not. You can't just click, say, okay, I'm all right, Republican. I'm everything here.
I hear that a lot.
Democrat. I'm everything here. And God forbid you veer off. And that's part of the thing with the Congressman Van Drew. I can't give him enough credit for saying that this impeachment is a sham. I'm not going to be a part of it. And in the political world, for him to do what he did, it took a lot. And I give him every bit of credit for saying, I'm not going to be a part of this. I'm not going to take the threats that the Democrats are putting upon me, and I'm going to do what's right. And I'm going to serve the people. And, people have their feelings on him, but the man is at every event. He cares. He stops here. He stops there. He shows up. He's invested. He is trying to do what's right in my opinion.
Sure.
And
we need more of that right now, for sure. But I think we are approaching a time where enough people, I think, are thinking differently. They are ready to stop just going all R or all D.
Yep.
And they're ready for someone that's going to be a little more of a populist candidate, but also some common sense with it too. Because that's usually where like the Bernie Sanders and the far left folks, they kind of lose their way. I think they lose common sense along the way. But then the Republicans and conservative folks, they lose sight of the common person. But this is the reason why Trump won, because he was able to speak more to the common person. Right?
Yes.
Now, how much he's been able to help them, that's up for debate. But that's what the people are looking for. They're looking for someone that actually is going to help them. So, but back to this area here, what else would you like to see done here?
Well, one of the things you touched on before, and before I go any further, the sad part is, common sense isn't so common anymore. And that's
the superpower.
That's troubling. But going back on, saying that New Jersey, we pay the highest taxes and get nothing for it. Cape May County, we're one of the higher counties in the highest state, one of the higher states, and what are we getting for it? New Jersey takes all our tax dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we get in return? We're not getting our fair share. And I get it. That's an uphill battle. And I can sit here. It's easy for me to say from the outside, we need to get our fair share. We need to fight. But I just don't feel like the fight has been there. I feel like, letters have been sent, but action needs to be taken. Our schools need to be funded higher. Our tourism dollars need to come back here. We give I think outside of Atlantic County with the casinos, we're the second highest contributor to the state in tourism dollars. And we don't see a lick of that in return. No. And, you need to beat down doors until you get what you're supposed to get. And if not, then you need to figure what action is taken, because we're completely controlled by North Jersey. We have no voice down here. And until somebody wants to say enough's enough, and you need that energy. And the problem is sometimes people say, well, and I don't want to be accusing anyone here, but some of the politicians, I think, well, if it's not affecting me as much, I got more important things to worry about that may affect my business or may affect my livelihood. But the people are struggling here. We got to fight for what we deserve. We give it to them and we don't get it back. After a while, if you and I, we're friends, we're going out, and everywhere we go, I'm paying for it, and you maybe here and there it's going to be like, well, hold on, you don't mind taking care of somebody, but you need the fair share in return, and we're not getting that, and I don't think we have, the voices that are really, pounding down doors to get what we deserve.
Nice. You made a lot of good points there. I think one of the reasons why that happens is for exactly what you said. It's the people who are already successful saying, I'm successful, so I don't really care what is going to happen around me because I'm already successful. I don't want to rock the boat. I think there's way too much of that going on right now.
Yep.
And the more people who say that, guess what the flip side is? There's more and more people who are going to be unsuccessful. That's why the growing 98% right now is growing bigger and bigger, because too many people in that 1% or 2 are saying, I'm good and I don't care.
Yep.
And they can say what they want, but that's what their actions are saying.
Exactly.
And so then, what's another good example? Someone like Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. I think his state pays the least, but gets the most of federal tax dollars, which is crazy.
Yep.
And then in New Jersey here, I think most of the stuff goes to schooling, I guess. But, I mean, and education is very important to me. So I don't
Absolutely.
mind stuff going to education, but I do hear the schools could be a lot better. And I don't think schools are teaching these days the skills that are necessary. I think they're teaching just mindless things that don't really help people in life.
Yeah, that's a whole nother avenue.
It's
we could go
it's
down.
huge.
I mean, you want to teach kids life lessons. Get them prepared. We're not. I mean, we could go on, and this would be a 10-hour show about what we've learned in school that we've never used, will never use, and what we could have learned that would be beneficial to us. But that's a whole different topic. But one of the things I like to say is there are school districts that have gotten hundreds of millions of dollars, and you've seen little to no improvement. A school district like Wildwood would take a minor amount of money considering what they give to other schools. You just took a portion of that. It would do wonders for the school, but they don't care. They don't care. And I'm not saying the county here. I'm just saying the state. The way the funding is. It's politicians are panderers. They're not even politicians anymore. They give to this school district because they need votes coming out of there. They don't have the votes from the. Murphy knows no matter what he does, he can totally abandon. Cape May County, the southern New Jersey, Atlantic County.
Right.
And he's still going to get those votes through the 95 corridor, and that's what he's going for. He knows he didn't have the votes here. So he does nothing for us down here. But, we need to look at, and you need to present a graph and say, hey, this is what this school's getting. This is what this school, and this is what we're getting. Our schools down here are being slighted. And if it gets to the point to where you need to, introduce legal action, then that's what it may take. And I'm far. I'm really anti litigious, and I don't like lawsuits and this and that. But we aren't being treated fairly.
Underfunding, you think, is the biggest problems for the schools here?
Absolutely.
Because I know other places, underfunding isn't necessarily a problem. It's more the money's not being spent well. And so I think both of those things need to be combined, right? So money first, but then money being spent well. And I think they're two separate issues. You
know what the problem is too? That's another major problem in government. Is money spent well is considered money not needed. I mean, I worked in beach services for the city of Wildwood. Everything I did, my goal was to make the money not come off the back of the taxpayers. Bring in money from the vacationers that are benefiting from it, but giving them a better overall experience and not trying to take everything from their pocket. Basically paying for what they're getting and not having our residents pay for their vacation or their experience while they're on vacation. So the more financially responsible we became, the more they say, oh, well, he doesn't need that. We can take that money. Well, just because you cut back, here, and I know people that were involved in, in school districts up, in counties out of here and other places. You see, you can go on gov deals and stuff like that. You'll see they're selling lawnmowers, they're selling equipment, they're selling this and that. Well, what's wrong with that? Oh, nothing's wrong with it. But we've had it for 2 years, so we're getting a new one because we budgeted it. So it's just like we got to keep budgeting. We have to waste money to show that we need to keep spending this money.
I've heard that a lot, actually.
And it's a bad way to govern but it's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy. But you need to look at everything overall. Like, okay, here we planned for this. We planned for this for 3 years. In the fourth year we need to start maintaining it. So you can't cut the budget fully, because then you're going to start collapsing. But you need to award, people that are being responsible with their budget, people that are, treating it like it should be treated, and, you'll get better results.
Yeah, it sounds like a terrible incentive system.
Yes.
Running it like that. And I know I was talking to a guy who works for the post office the other day, and he was mentioning the same exact thing happened to the post office, where they are actually profiting a lot, but then due to federal legislation, they had to use that extra money and it counted against them.
Yeah.
And it was this very similar kind of thing. And so, like here in Wildwood, in Camden County, or is this Cape May County?
Cape May
right?
County.
What other kinds of things does Wildwood need? What would they like to see, like the state of New Jersey, do for them?
Well, I know the school has been begging for funding. The support with the convention center, and just some of the support with our beach is enormous. It's not, and it's a free beach, but it's not free. It's not free at all. It costs the taxpayers of Wildwood to maintain that beach, to guard that beach, to provide medical services for that beach. So there's things like that. We just got the bridge entranceway, the grand entranceway, and I think part of that was it's beneficial to some of the businesses, maybe the boardwalk, get people in and out faster and have an easier trip.
Sure.
So it's more beneficial, but I think my one big thing getting involved here is I want to take my visions away from Wildwood and kind of branch out through the county and see what the county needs. And, and I know what could benefit Wildwood, but we're very fortunate here. Cape May County is an absolute gem. Some of the cities and municipalities that we have here, create so much opportunity for not only the residents, but for the vacationers. The problem is, we're such a we're based on seasonal occupancy so much that the jobs are affected,
Right.
and wintertime, the substance abuse issues throughout the county, stuff like that. But I think, we can look into that, look into providing better transportation throughout the county, the whole extension of 55 and, the bridges. Now I find it kind of amusing that all of a sudden there's a plan for the bridges and all this and that comes out 2 months before an election.
Sure.
And that's the thing, that's why people lose faith in politicians. It's like
it's true.
And it's just there's opportunity for improvement. One of my main things is I think the focus on mental health and substance abuse programs and growing that moving forward is going to be one of the most important things, especially throughout the country. But I think we need to take care of our people in Cape May County with that.
So that's actually a good thing to follow up on. So with the addiction and mental health stuff, because I'm pretty passionate about those things too, what would you like to see done? Is there any kinds of legislations or concentrate on treatment and recovery or mental health? I'm not sure, but what do you think?
I think, a lot of it goes hand in hand. I think a lot of the mental health will lead you to a lot of other issues.
Absolutely.
And I think, we don't have much here to provide for people. In the fire department, my main goal right now is to create, a full-on mental health program that's going to benefit, starting with our fire department, branch it out to, police department, city employees, and then, grow it from there. We deal with a lot, in the public employees. We deal with a lot, and
well, trauma, PTSD stuff,
and here's the
all
thing.
sorts.
Yeah, exactly. We're not New York City. We're not Philadelphia. We're not Los Angeles County. This and that. But we see our fair share of stuff. And to be honest with you, when I lived here, before I got involved in the fire department, I never thought I would see things that I've seen in Wildwood. Growing up my whole life, and then you see stuff, and a lot of times we're seeing people at their worst, and we deal with it. There's sights, there's sounds, there's smells that we'll never get out of our heads. And you have corrections officers, people don't think about this. You have correction officers that work in a jail. They're basically prisoners themselves.
Yeah.
They're going in there. They're in those walls. They're sheltered from the outside community. They're sheltered from their family. They're dealing with terrible situations as well. And, we just don't have, in my opinion, the proper outlets in Cape May County for these people. That's just on the first responder aspect of it. But for these people, think about, alcohol sales went through the roof. A lot of these kids needed to be in school because their homes aren't really their place. They're not. It's not their safe place. School is their safe place. So now they're home with abusive parents or abusive guardians. That that could be physical, that could be sexual, that could be whatever. And now add on that they have nowhere to go. They're drinking more, so it's probably increased. The abuse of whatever type. And now moving forward, the help is going to be needed more than anything. And I'd be lying to say, hey, these are the programs that they have. But I have researched. I've worked through our city. I've worked through the county, trying to see what EAPs are in employee assistance programs are in place, and where we can go, and who we can see, and what's available. And somebody that's struggling doesn't want to be told, okay, well, you drive, an hour and 10 minutes up the road, you'll see this doctor and this and that. You need to provide them everything that makes them comfortable, that makes them willing to go and seek that help and feel comfortable in seeking that help.
Sure. I know on this channel, I talk a lot about mental health. And one of the big issues to me is someone goes to a psychiatrist for anxiety and depression or whatever. And it always seems the first thing they do is decide to throw some drugs down your throat. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of different things to try before doing that. But these are doctors, of course. And so, in my experience, though, doctors have not done the best for me. And I think there is a lack of faith and a lack of trust in doctors when that's what they do. But that's one of the reasons why I do my channel, where I talk about natural supplements that can help.
Yes.
Sleep, diet, exercise, huge things, a good sense of community purpose. There's a lot of things, but what does this all come down to? It comes down to education, right? Education, teaching people about mental health, teaching people about what's good for them. And that's a direct, like you mentioned about people being stuck at home and then alcohol sales going up and then contributing to more abuse. That happened directly because people were told to stay home.
Yes.
And they didn't realize that actually the virus is more likely than not killed by UV light. And so you didn't really need to be staying home like that, right? Being outside could have done the trick. But instead, people stayed home, used it as an excuse to drink more. And like you said, a lot of them were abusive towards their family and spouses, and those things spiked. And I'm not going to say that's from lack of education, but it is something that happens when people don't stay a way out, right? Yes. And I think that's a lot of that going on in this country right now, too, where I think a lot of people aren't seeing a way out. They're not seeing hope. They're not seeing a route for their success. And that kind of directly leads into the last thing I want to talk about with you is, what would you say to, the small business owners around here, for example, that may never come back? What do you say to those people at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. I don't know what you would say. I mean, as an outsider, I would just, give them my support and, lend them an ear and give them all of my time if they ever needed anything,
right.
Whether it's, getting back on their feet or just somebody to listen. But, I wasn't in the position to, help them. So I think just going after the fact and trying to provide some type of relief it's kind of not a proper way to go about it, but it's so tough, and you see how it's going to affect their life and the lives of future generations that we're planning on continuing to grow
right.
that business. So I mean,
I think you're on to something with the first part, though. It's you be there and listen. Yeah. Listening is huge with people who are struggling in any way. And just having a non-judgmental ear can be priceless. And I think the next thing they would need is just a path forward, like a clear path that they can see. Okay, I've lost my business and it can be catastrophic.
Yes.
I don't see a way out. But okay, I can develop this skill and then move forward in this way. Or I can do this for school, then do this. But like clearing away some of the uncertainty, I think would be huge. And I know when they're feeling badly, that's the last thing they want to do. Yeah. But it's the thing that would help them the most if their small business is indeed unrecoverable.
Yep.
I mean, hopefully they could be recovered, of course.
Yes.
But that's not going to be the case. I know when this virus started, 40% of small businesses, they were projected to close within 6 months. 40%. So that's a hell of a lot.
Yes.
And it's not the kind of news anyone wants to hear.
And that's going to affect a lot of heads and a lot of mouths, and and that's the tough part. But I think one of the biggest things is, and just to kind of touch back on what you said about, they just want to medicate. Sometimes, the opportunity to talk to someone, the opportunity to feel good about yourself is more of a medication than any pill. And I think that's something we need to get away from. I've been very close with my chiropractor, Dr. Oliveri. I mean, he's kept me going for forever. And chiropractors are looked down on because they don't pump medicine.
Right.
They're not about medicine. They're about going after the actual issue that's creating the problems, and not going after the symptoms. You just don't medicate the symptoms and think things are going to get better.
Right.
It's so.
That's a good point.
And I think with the mental health, there's I'm not sure if you look her up, Maddie McCracken. She started this Step Back Foundation, and it's gaining a lot of steam. And I think her being a young girl, her being into sports, into the community, and she's gained such a good core of people, and she has the opportunity now, to take that and expand that, and make it to where she has the opportunity to help a lot of people. And I think taking little groups like that and organizations like that and creating them into bigger groups and making them more focused in the community, because the problem is in the fire department, I'll say we're tough guys. We don't need help. We don't go to seek help.
But some boozers there too, that like blowing off steam in that way.
You know what we do? We go to the bar after and we have some drinks, and that that it doesn't make anything go away. It takes it away for a little bit.
It has its place to me.
But
it has its place.
Yeah, I definitely I enjoy it, man. It's family, but the thing is, we need outlets for guys, and we need and girls, and and make sure it's not taboo to seek help. Make sure it's not taboo to say, like, okay, she's struggling or he's struggling. They have mental health issues. Well, they must be crazy. No, that's not it. There's a lot of people that are dealing with it that it affects everything they do. So that's one of my main focuses on that I want to grow throughout the county and really see a difference in.
I think that would be a huge thing to work on, and if people could see that you're doing that, I think you would gain a lot of popularity in that, because it's huge right now between opiate crisis stuff, mental health, and a lot of this stuff really is, like I said before, trauma-based.
Yes.
Learning how to deal with trauma.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there's people that when they were kids, they had trauma, that they develop personality disorders. They're really difficult to work with, but there are people that can be helped, like whether it's with anxiety, depression, addiction, alcoholism, and in conjunction with medicine sometimes. Like, I think there are ways.
Exactly. Some medicine is beneficial.
Sometimes.
But just saying, you got this? Okay, here, I'm going to prescribe you this. Come back in, 60 days, let me know how it was. Yeah.
It's not enough just to do that. I think it can be a part of the tool,
yes,
of the toolbox, but there's still other things that need to go along with that toolbox, right? And
education is
whatever
key,
works.
like you said.
Whatever works for people is what I'm for.
Yes.
So before we close here, is there anything else you wanted to make sure the audience knows about you or your mission?
I think, at the end of the day, I can't state it enough that I'm people over politics. I have been involved in, around politics for the past couple of decades. I've seen the good of it. I've seen the bad of it. And, I just want to try to focus on doing what's right. I've worked in the fire department for, the past, 12 years. So every day I go to work, my job is to help other people. That's my opportunity, and that's what I love. That's where I gain my energy comes from being able to help other people. I'm not looking to get in this to say, oh, well, now I have power. Now I have this. Now I'm part of this group. Now I'm part of that group. Now I can make money off of this or that. That's not me. My goal, what brings me gratitude, is helping others. And, I really hope that I'm able to do that. And honestly, with that, I understand there's a great responsibility. You and I were discussing this. There is potential to bring on different people that don't want to be involved in politics these days. With that is a great responsibility because, if I do get in, I have to earn these people's respect. I have to do everything I'm saying I'm going to do.
Yep.
And, and that's, that could be the teetering point of whether more people get involved or they say, we can't do this. So I do get the responsibility of it, and I'm anxious for that. I want to prove that, I'm not saying I can fix everything because it's easy for me. It's always easy for the outsiders. And, my father would talk about it all the time. Hey, well, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? Well, it's not that easy. And I get it. I get that it's not that easy. But at the end of the day, what is easy is putting all your energy into what's right. Fighting for the people that deserve to be fought for. And doing what's best for a community as a whole over a group.
Sure.
So,
well, I think you're identifying with the spirit of being a public servant. And I think that's a lot of what is missing right now in today's politics. They don't remember that that's really what they are. They're a public servant that's supposed to be looking out for the people's best interest. Yes. And it's like that George Carlin skit. He goes, aren't you a public servant? Get me a glass of water. And how many politicians do you think have that spirit in them? If you ask Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Trump to get me a glass of water, they'd laugh. Yep. They'd laugh in your face because they've forgotten the essence. They've forgotten the spirit of what politics is supposed to be all about. And it seems like you're embodying that, which I think is exactly what politics read. I think everywhere. It needs it everywhere right now.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I'm going to give it my best, and I've gotten some positive feedback, and just being able to, I think even if things don't work out, which I'm hoping, I really do believe I have a good chance to get in, but I've met people like yourself and people that are like you with the thoughts of let's kind of take a different approach, and there is opportunity out there, and
sure.
Let's get the good people involved, and when I say that, I don't want to make it sound like, oh, the people involved now aren't good people. There are still good people in politics and all. I just think sometimes the mission gets lost in what they're doing, and I think they need to be looked upon as equals and not superiors, because like you said, you're elected by these people. You still answer to them, and I think some of them think that the people answer to them.
And they made a career for themselves out of it. I also think that's another part of the problem. People don't go back to public life.
They get comfortable with being handed things.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, Ryan, it's definitely a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And definitely share this with your friends out there. Comment below what you thought about the video, whether you liked it or just didn't like it or whatever. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So with that, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.